One of the EU's top courts says that Carles Puigdemont and two other Catalan pro-independence MEPs can have their parliamentary immunity taken away.
Storm Polly batters the Netherlands, killing at least 2 people and shutting down transport networks.
Palestinians returned to Jenin after a 2-day raid on a refugee camp by Israeli militants, which has left 14 dead and displaced thousands.
One of the EU's top courts says Carles Puigdemont and two other Catalan pro-independence MEPs can have their parliamentary immunity taken away. The ruling by the General Court of the EU on Wednesday opens up the way for Spain to reactivate an extradition request for the 3 lawmakers. In 2017, Puigdemont, Toni Comín and Clara Ponsati fled to Belgium after the illegal independence referendum in Catalonia. Puigdemont has already announced that they will appeal the judgment.
Creo que ha quedado acreditado, insisto, que se nos persigue por razones estrictamente políticas. Y hasta hoy hemos pensado, y de ahí viene parte de nuestra estrategia, y va a continuar siendo así, que esto en Europa no tenía cabida. Nos lo creíamos y nos lo creemos. Yo al menos sí. Como europeísta, esta es mi convicción y por tanto no voy a dejar de insistir en esa vía. Y no voy a dejar de hacer valer mis derechos.
In 2021, the European Parliament waived the immunity of the 3 MEPs, but they later challenged this decision. Now the EU's General Court has dismissed this appeal. The MEP who chaired the Legal Affairs Committee where the immunity was initially revoked says the pressure the 3 Catalan politicians have suffered is unfair.
Hemos sufrido intoxicaciones, presiones, amenazas. Una presión sin precedentes en la historia de esta casa en un procedimiento de suplicatorio. Aun con todo, la sentencia confirma lo que ya sabíamos y lo que yo vengo defendiendo desde hace 3 años. Que el proceso de levantamiento de inmunidad del Parlamento ha sido impecable y realizado con todas las garantías.
The Spanish government says it's satisfied with the ruling, but it remains to be seen whether it will reactivate the European arrest warrant and also how the Belgian justice system will respond. In the meantime, the situation in Spain has changed. In January 2023, the penal code was reformed with the aim of lowering tensions with pro-independence supporters. This means that they would no longer be tried for sedition, but instead for embezzlement and disobedience, likely meaning lower sentences.
The Netherlands has been battered by a summer storm which has killed at least 2 people and blown trees into houses. Superstorm Polly saw winds of over 130 kilometers an hour and heavy rain. 1 woman died when a tree fell on her car in the city of Haarlem. Numerous highways, especially in the north of the country, have been closed to traffic while fallen debris is removed. In Amsterdam, a tree fell on a houseboat moored in one of the city's canals. Polly has also seriously affected rail traffic, leaving numerous trains on the platform. And it's disrupted flights at one of Europe's busiest airports, Schiphol in Amsterdam, where more than 400 flights were cancelled, including flights to Maastricht, Brussels and Paris. There have also been serious problems at sea. 2 ships were caught in the storm and one of them, a yacht, ended up sinking, although the crew was brought to safety.
Russian and Ukrainian officials have escalated their rhetoric surrounding the situation at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Now, the Institute for the Study of War says Russia is likely focused on accusing Ukraine of irresponsible actions around the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, including setting conditions for a possible false flag attack. Now, Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant has been under Russian control since the very early days of the full-scale invasion in 2022. All 6 reactors have since been shut down. The Ukrainian armed forces are now warning of a possible provocation in the near future on the territory of the plant, saying that items similar to explosive devices were placed on the external roof of the 3rd and the 4th power units of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. A few days earlier, Ukraine's military intelligence directorate claimed that Moscow had approved a plan to blow up the station and has mined 4 out of 6 power units, as well as the cooling pond, which is here. Now, the Institute for the Study of War says Russia remains unlikely to generate a radiological incident at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant at this time. The think tank reiterates it is unlikely that limited Russian sabotage at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant that Russia could hope to blame on Ukraine would be able to generate a massive radiological incident, as the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant reactors were constructed to withstand considerable damage. Back in October last year, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky predicted that Russia would destroy the Kakhovka Dam in the region of Kherson. Now Zelensky and other senior Ukrainian officials have intensified the warnings that Russian forces plan to sabotage the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, the largest such facility in Europe.
Palestinians survey the destruction after 2 days of the biggest Israeli military raid on the West Bank city of Jenin in decades. Israeli forces pulled out of the area earlier on Wednesday, claiming to have inflicted heavy damage on militant groups operating from the city's refugee camp. 13 Palestinians and 1 Israeli soldier were reported to have been killed in clashes during the operation. Mourners gathered for the last of the funerals as soldiers withdrew to their bases. At the same time, Palestinians who fled the camp began returning. As the operation ended, the Israeli military displayed weapons and alleged bomb-making materials recovered from the area. Evidence, it says, of why its actions were justified. And it has warned that it could return any moment if deemed necessary.
The head of the International Atomic Energy Agency has visited the Fukushima nuclear plant to try and allay safety fears. On Tuesday, Rafael Grossi announced the body's approval for Japan's plans to release treated wastewater into the sea. The clean-up after the partial reactor meltdown following the 2011 tsunami has taken years, but Grossi insists it's now safe.
For the past 5 hours or so, I have been visiting different places, different locations, and I was also able to look closer to the facilities that are in preparation in case there is a decision to start with the controlled discharges, and I was satisfied with what I saw.
Earlier, Grossi gave the same message to local fishers and farmers worried about reputational harm to their products. Japan's neighbours are also concerned. China has long opposed the water release plan.
日本福岛核污染水排海关乎重大国际公共利益，不容含糊，不容闪失。中方敦促日方尊重科学，尊重事实，不要企图将机构报告当作启动排海的挡箭牌，忠实履行国际道义责任和国际法义务。
And while South Korea's government says it respects the IAEA's decision, it hasn't entirely succeeded in reassuring its citizens. Activists in Seoul say the nuclear watchdog didn't consider alternatives to water discharge.
A new ban issued by Afghanistan's ruling Taliban, forcing the closure of women's beauty salons, has been greeted with dismay by Afghan women and anger from the international community. The group have given salons throughout the country a month's notice to wind down their businesses. There has been no reason given for the ban.
یک سال میشه که در آرایشگاه کار میکنم. یکی دو روز میشه که از طرف طالبات لایحه پخش شده که آرایشگاه را میخواین بسته کنن. لطفاً ازتان تقاضا میکنیم این کار را نکنین، به خاطر که ما به خاطر یک چند روپیه حلال با پیدا کردنش اینجا آمدیم. مکتب سر زنا بند، آرایشگاه بند، هیچ قسم زن در جامعه چه حق زندگی کردن نداره.
فکر میکنم دیگه مسجد که بشه باید با خونه بشینم بیکار بی همه چی دیگه رنج میشم، مریض میشم. تنها امید من بود که می آدم اینجا ساعت نتیر بود دیگه با خونه که برو خود من بفهم دیگه تنها باشم دیگه بی از مریض میشم.
It's the latest curb on the rights and freedoms of Afghan women and girls after being barred from education, public spaces and most forms of employment. The ban has triggered a fierce international uproar, increasing the country's isolation at a time when its economy has collapsed and worsening an already worrying humanitarian crisis. Intense heat has Romanians seeking ways to cool off. 39 degrees and rising is making it hard to breathe by midday in the country's biggest cities. The coast is the only place to be despite the crowds. Meteorologists are warning that the heat will remain for some days yet. The hot weather will persist on Wednesday and Thursday. High temperatures during the day will be followed by evenings with torrential rains and high humidity. The Spanish government on Tuesday declared an official end to the health crisis caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and said people no longer have to wear masks in health and care centres or pharmacies. Over the past 2 years, Spain has gradually ended the mandatory mask wearing, first in public and then on public transport. The country has registered 14 million cases and 122,000 deaths from the coronavirus since 2020.